You know, when you think of Pahalgam, you picture those stunning views, right? They call it mini Switzerland.
Absolutely. It's got
Yeah.
that reputation for breathtaking scenery, peaceful meadows.
Which makes what happened on April 22nd just so much harder to process. Around 2:30 in the afternoon, that piece was completely shattered in Bizarin Meadow.
It's a horrifying juxtaposition, isn't it? That natural beauty turned into a scene of absolute terror. The basic facts alone are grim enough.
Yeah.
26 people killed, including 2 foreign visitors, and at least 20 injured.
And the group claiming it, the Resistance Front, the TRF.
Yes, they claimed responsibility. And we know they're widely understood to be linked to Lashkar-e-Taiba, basically an offshoot.
But beyond the horror of the attack itself, there's this other really disturbing angle emerging, isn't there?
There is the question of preventability.
Yeah.
Could this have been stopped? That's what people are starting to ask. Was there a major intelligence um, lapse, a security failure?
Right, because Pahalgam isn't just some remote spot, it's a major tourist destination.
Exactly. And Bizaran Meadow, just about 5 kilometers out from the main town. It's one of the key attractions. People flock there.
So the security presence, reports suggest it was surprisingly light that day.
That's what seems odd, yes. For such a popular, predictable gathering place for tourists, you'd expect more visible security.
Hmm.
It raises questions about, the threat assessment for that specific location.
Okay, so let's maybe dig into this idea of a missed warning first. What are we hearing about that?
Well, the reports center around a suggestive remark. That's the phrase being used. It apparently came from a militant based across the border in Pakistan-administered Kashmir just days before the attack.
Suggestive, not specific.
Apparently not a direct, we will attack Bizaran Meadow at 2.30, no, but like an indication that something significant was about to happen, something that, in hindsight, seems like a huge red flag.
And the follow-up, or lack thereof.
That's the core of the concern. If this information was picked up by intelligence, why didn't it translate into heightened alert levels? Why wasn't there a more robust response on the ground?
It's like someone tweeting they're going to rob a bank, and then nothing happens until they actually do it.
It's a stark analogy, but yet it captures that sense of disbelief. How could such a signal, however vague, not trigger a more serious reaction?
So then, the attack itself, can you paint a picture of that afternoon? Bizaran Meadow, sunny Tuesday.
You have to imagine it. Tourists enjoying the day, families, maybe kids running around, local vendors selling snacks or offering pony rides. Just a normal, beautiful afternoon in the mountains.
Until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't. Suddenly, reports say, attackers appeared, dressed in military-style fatigues, armed with automatic weapons.
And it wasn't just random firing, was it? The accounts from survivors are particularly chilling.
They are truly harrowing. Witnesses describe indiscriminate shooting, yes, but also something more sinister. Attackers apparently checking IDs.
Specifically targeting Hindu tourists, according to some accounts.
Yes, that element of targeted violence is deeply disturbing. And then there's that specific awful story of the woman from Poon.
Her husband was killed right in front of her.
And the reported message given to her. Go tell this to Modi. It speaks volumes about the intended message, the political dimension of this brutality.
And the attackers themselves, this wasn't some amateur operation, clearly.
Not at all. We're talking military-grade weapons, automatic rifles, and significantly, helmet-mounted cameras.
Cameras, what does that suggest?
Well, it could mean several things. Documenting their operation for propaganda, perhaps? Or, more chillingly, maybe receiving real-time guidance or instructions from handlers.
Suggesting coordination from elsewhere.
It strongly suggests meticulous planning, detailed reconnaissance of the area beforehand. They likely knew the layout, knew the routines, maybe even knew where security was typically weakest. This wasn't spontaneous.
Do we know who might have planned this? Any names emerging?
Intelligence sources are pointing towards Saifullah Kasuri, also known as Khalid. He's described as a senior Lashkar-e-Taiba commander based out of Gujranwala in Pakistan.
And he has known links higher up.
Yes, reportedly connected to figures like Hafiz Saeed, the Liti chief. Kasuri is being framed as the likely planner, the architect behind this.
And the men on the ground, the actual attackers.
Sketches have been released of 3 individuals believed to be the leaders of the assault team. Asif Fauji, who used the codename Musa, Suleiman Shah, codename Yunus, and Abu Talha, codename Asif.
Fauci. There's speculation about his background.
There are suggestions, yes, possibly linking him to the Pakistan military establishment, though that's often hard to confirm definitively. What's also interesting is the report that the group spoke multiple languages.
Like Pashto.
Pashto, yes, and also local Kashmiri dialects. It points to a possibly diverse group, maybe drawing fighters from different regions, reinforcing the idea of external support and organization.
And circling back to TRF, the group that claimed it, you said they're essentially Lati.
That's the general consensus, yes. The resistance front emerged more prominently after India changed the status of Jammu and Kashmir, revoking Article 370. They try to present a more indigenous face, but security agencies see them as basically a new label for Lati operations.
And their stated reason for this attack.
They've linked it to the issuance of domicile certificates to people from outside Kashmir, framing it as opposition to what they call demographic engineering by
The
India.
political motive, then.
Clearly, they attempt to cloak their violence in this narrative of resistance against perceived demographic change. But of course, targeting innocent tourists, including foreigners, makes any claim of legitimate resistance ring hollow.
The aftermath in the meadow must have been just chaos and devastation.
Absolutely horrific. That beautiful landscape turned into, well, a scene of carnage. But we also heard stories of incredible bravery from local Kashmiris.
People rushing to help.
Yes, using their own resources, even ponies apparently, to evacuate the injured before formal help like military helicopters could arrive, getting the wounded to the hospital in Pahalgam town.
And the victims, they came from all over, didn't they?
They really did. It underscores how far-reaching this was. An Indian Navy officer, an intelligence bureau official,
Tragic.
tourists from Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Odisha, even from Nepal and the UAE. It wasn't just an attack on one place. It affected people from across India and beyond.
The government's response seemed quite immediate.
It was. Prime Minister Modi was on an international trip, I believe in Saudi Arabia. He cut it short.
Right. Came back for an emergency cabinet committee on security meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Strong statements were issued, vowing to bring the perpetrators to justice. Home Minister Shah flew to Srinagar, held high-level security meetings, reiterated that vow against terror.
And support for the victims' families.
Yes, the Jammu and Kashmir administration announced ex gratia payments, financial assistance for those who lost loved ones or were injured. Standard but necessary steps.
What about the security follow-up, the manhunt?
Very intensive operations were launched immediately, cordoning off large forest areas using drones for surveillance, trying to track the attackers. The National Investigation Agency, the NIA, also got involved, which usually indicates a major terror incident with wider connections.
Any success reported?
There were reports, I think, of the Indian Army eliminating 2 terrorists in a separate operation shortly after, possibly linked. But the main group involved in the Baisaran attack might still be at large, or parts of it. The search is ongoing.
Which brings us right back to that really uncomfortable question about the intelligence.
Yes, it keeps coming up, that suggestive remark, the apparent failure to act decisively on it beforehand.
And politicians are weighing in.
Oh, absolutely. Across the political spectrum, you're hearing strong criticism. Figures like Asaduddin Owaisi, Rahul Gandhi, the former Chief Minister Omar Abdullah, they're all raising serious questions about the security lapse and demanding accountability.
It's not just one party pointing fingers, then.
No, it seems to be a widespread concern. How could this happen? Why wasn't Baisaran better protected, given its prominence? These are the questions being asked very forcefully.
And it does seem puzzling. A known tourist hotspot. Why the light security?
It suggests the attackers possibly knew this. Their reconnaissance, which we mentioned, might have identified this as a vulnerability. Maybe they felt confident they could operate there without facing immediate, strong resistance or hitting major checkpoints on their way in or out.
Looking at the bigger picture, this attack doesn't exist in isolation, does it?
No, definitely not. It's part of the sadly long-running story of conflict and tension in Jammu and Kashmir. The India-Pakistan rivalry, the ongoing insurgency, the divisions over Article 370's abrogation, it all forms the backdrop.
And the TRF's narrative about domicile certificates feeds into that.
Exactly. They try to exploit existing grievances or anxieties. And you have to remember, estimates suggest there is still, a number of active militants in the region, both from across the border and local recruits. The threat persists.
The timing also seems significant, happening during major international focus elsewhere.
It often does. Attacks like these are sometimes timed to maximize international attention or perhaps exploit perceived distractions.
And did it get international attention?
Oh, yes. Widespread condemnation. We saw statements from leaders like U.S. President Trump, Russia's President Putin, Israel's Netanyahu, Italy's Meloni, condemning the attack in strong terms.
What about Pakistan?
Pakistan issued official condolences for the loss of life, but their defense minister also explicitly denied any Pakistani involvement in the attack itself. Pretty standard diplomatic positioning in these situations.
But amidst all the politics and strategy, it's the human stories that really hit home.
Always. When you hear about specific victims, Manjunath Rao, Suresh Nathaniel, that young Navy officer reportedly married just days before he was killed.
Just devastating.
The Intelligence Bureau official giving his life in service, even the local pony operator just trying to earn a living in a beautiful place, caught up in this violence.
And that poor woman from Poon having to carry that horrific memory and that message.
It's profoundly tragic. But you also hear about the locals who helped, their bravery. It reminds you of the resilience of people, even in the face of such horror.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, we're left with this immense sense of tragedy, but also a lot of urgent questions.
Definitely. Questions about accountability for the security failures, about how to improve intelligence gathering and response, and ultimately how to prevent this from happening again.
And the ripple effects. What does this do to Kashmir's tourism? That must be a huge concern.
A massive concern. Tourism is crucial for the local economy. Reports suggest cancellations started almost immediately. Fear is a powerful deterrent, unfortunately. And then you see the reaction in places like Jammu protests, anger directed towards Pakistan. It shows the deep impact this has on public sentiment.
So maybe the question we leave you, the listener, with is, what do we take away from this? Beyond the shock and the anger, what lessons need to be learned?
Right. How does this translate into actual meaningful change in security protocols, in intelligence sharing, in addressing the root causes that extremists exploit?
We hope, obviously, for a future where Pahalgam is known only for its beauty again, not for this violence.
That has to be the hope. But achieving that means confronting these difficult questions and ensuring that the memory of April 22nd, 2025 leads not just to mourning, but to real, tangible action towards a more secure peace.
It makes you think about the long road ahead, doesn't it?